Welcome to DFC on the Green for the Farmers Insurance Open. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Chris Etherington. We're going to jump right into the hot topic of this week. Tiger Woods is back. You got the Sunday red on here for Monday because did you wear it all day? Did it go to work with you, or did you put it on specifically for the pod?
No, it was just one of those things. After I got home, I decided, you know what? I think tonight is the night to start wearing the Tiger red. For this week and possibly for all the weeks that he's going to play this year. So, as all you know, I'm really excited that he's back, and there's just a lot of hype, just like the same sort of hype that was going into the Hero. Pretty much the same sort of thing going into this week. So, looking forward to it. Definitely going to play him on DraftKings, and I haven't made that decision whether I should put some money on him for the outright win. He's 25-1, so we'll see.
Let's be honest. You know you're gonna do it.
Yeah, I might put like $5 on it just to see what happens, right? So yeah, that might happen on Wednesday.
This week, we were talking a little bit before the show. It's obviously a tougher course here. It's a long course. What are you looking at for this week in terms of key stats?
Yeah, I'm just going back to the basics. Just basically looking at the ball strikers, the strokes gained off the tee, the approach to the green, the around the green, and also the par 4 scoring as well. And then the strokes gained birdie a better percentage. I want the guys that can still obviously make the birdies for the DraftKings scoring. And other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. And like I said a couple weeks ago, I'm just going to put putting in there just as like a tiebreaker. If the guy I'm thinking about, or if there's two guys and one guy seems to be putting better recently, then I will pick him over the other guy. And yeah.
And this course, obviously, it's long. There's some long par 4s. There's a handful of par 5s in this one. And, we've seen guys who can drive off the tee have some success. But as you kind of mentioned, we really can't forget about the around the green. We can't forget about, guys that still have to, score well here. Like you can hit 300 plus yards and then do nothing after that.
Right. Especially on the South course. The North course is a little more forgiving, but the South is really tight. It was the U.S. Open venue back in 2008. They can grow the rough very long. So having guys that can hit it off the tee very well is, I think, the major key stat for this week. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a complete 180 from last week. There was a ton of guys under par last week. I believe the cut number was 8 under. This week, it's not going to be that. I think 8 under, 9 under, around there is going to be your winner for the week. So it's not going to be as high of a scoring fantasy-wise. So, yeah, it'll be a grind.
Let's dive in here. Let's dive into this top tier. The over the 10K guys. No one's below 10.5 of the double-digit options. Jon Rahm, obviously going to be a popular play. You didn't dig into him in your article, but obviously, he's kind of the cream of the crop here.
Yeah, I think I've kind of just decided last week that there's really no reason to fade Rahm at this point. He's just on a heater. And, I mean, he's first in the field for off the tee. He's second for birdies a better gain, and he's 7th for approaches. So, I mean, you can fade him if you want to try and be different, but that's not for me. I'm just going to pick him. I don't care how popular he is. Same with Tiger. I just really don't care. Rahm is, like I said, he's on a heater. He's second in the world right now. And there's a good possibility that he might take the #1 spot by the end of the year. So I'm just going to play him and yeah, go from there.
And Fowler is kind of interesting here because had some success early in his career and kind of have struggled here of late. Everything sets up really well for Fowler at this course. I think this is a place where he can have some success. If there's any whiff that he's going to be slightly lower owned than maybe what he should be, like he becomes an excellent pivot away from Rahm.
Yeah, he's quite interesting. I don't know if he might be good for cash games. I mean, if you just look at his recent play, then you say, yeah, he's excellent. But if you look at his course history, I mean, he's missed three out of the last 4 cuts here. So, yeah, I really don't know what to make of him. At 11-4, you kind of want to be comfortable picking that golfer. I'm just not comfortable with him. I think I'm just going to fade and move down to, say, like Justin Rose. Kind of like Rahm. Rose has been on a heater a little bit towards the end of last year. He's 4th in birdies a better game, 6th in par 4 scoring, and then he finished 4th here last year. So the way he's playing right now, I think I'm just going to have him and Rahm at the top and just go from there.
Yeah, like Matsuyama, he's kind of similar to Fowler, where I don't feel completely comfortable, but he's definitely an option this week if you're building multiple lineups. And both him and Fowler, obviously, guys, if you're building a ton of lineups, like you're gonna try and get some exposure to.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if one of those two will be higher owned than either Rahm or Rose this week. I think Rahm and Rose will be 1 and 2, and then it might be Fowler. I think Matsuyama might be that lone wolf, basically, at the bottom for ownership. I don't think a lot of people will play him this week.
And then you have Tiger Woods, 9,700. I told you before the show, I won't go there in GPPs just because of the ownership. Obviously played well at the Hero. At a 9,700 price tag, I think, you were like, if him and Finau were kind of swapped in prices, it would be a different story. I just think at his ownership, you can make the case to fade here because we have such a small sample size of Tiger healthy. The ownership is still going to be very high. There's no guarantees that he comes out and just absolutely doesn't miss a step,
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at his stats. It's like, yeah, he's 131st and off the tee. He's 147th around the green. And that's just like you said, that's just because he hasn't really played that much in the last 3 or 4 years. If you look at his course history, obviously he's basically the best at this place. He's won here. He's won this tournament like 7 times. He's won the U.S. Open on the South course. His, like, going back to 2013 was his last win here, and then after that it was like a basically dead last. The next year after that, WD obviously didn't play after that, and then missed the cut as we all saw last year. Yeah, I'm just going to play him just because he's my guy. So I'm just going to take it for what it's worth. And for the ownership, I think he's going to be around that 17-20% mark just because people are excited that he's back. People will play him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, straight up just for the name value, people are going to be playing him. Let's kind of drop down here, 95 to 8,500 range. Harman's been playing really well. Cantley's interesting at 9,500. But I know Leishman's the guy that you're taking a look at here at 92.
Yeah, Leishman is one of those underrated players that for some reason he's really not that heavily owned a lot. At 9,200, that might start changing for this week. But if you look at his stats, he's 6th and birdies are better. He's 12th for around the greens. He's 15th for approach the green. And then if you look at his course history, he finished tied for 20th last year. So at 9,200, I think he's your safest option above 9,000, just to plug him in for your cash games, and then basically be one of your core guys for the week if you want to expose him to like 40 to 60% out of like 20 lineups or something like that. I think he's your safest guy over on 9,000 outside of Rose and Rahm.
And then you kind of look down like a little bit below him. You talk Tony Finau. You could expect him to be a somewhat popular play this week. We talked a lot about him before the show. Just he's got everything in the arsenal but the putter. Everything is very strong. The putting is just the one thing that he can't get right. And I think that kind of hurts really his ability to kind of have a chance at a top 5 and have a chance at a win, because he just seemingly misses those putts.
Like I said it off air, where he's sort of like a poor man's version of a Matsuyama at this point. If you look back at the Shriners, I mean, he finished 16th that week, but he lost almost 7 strokes in putting. All he needs to do is basically putt average or just above average, and then he's top 5, potentially a win. That's really the only weakness in his game. If you look at his course history here, I mean, he finished T4th here last year. He tied for 18th the year before that. So this is why I said I think if DraftKings have flip-flop Tiger and Finau, then his ownership might not be as high. But being at 87, I think his ownership is going to be at least 35% in tournaments. It might creep up to 40, but I think around 35 is what you're expecting for Finau. And for me, I'm trying to decide whether I should be with the field or just well overweight Finau this week in tournaments.
And like I like Shane Lowry right in that same range. I don't think it's going to be a huge ownership swing, but I think he will have a pretty good ownership difference if you wanted to go Lowry, because Lowry's made the cut here all 3 times. This is a guy who is good off the tee. He has that potential. There's just the only dilemma for me with Lowry is the fact that he hasn't played in a while, and you kind of just don't know what you're getting here coming into the new year.
Yeah, he hasn't played since the Wyndham, and he finished 7th that week. So, I mean, he's been putting very well. He's 3rd in the field in the last 24 rounds. So, if you want to do a pivot option, I think Lowry's your best bet off of Finau. I think Lowry will be around that, probably that 12%. 13% mark for ownership, but that might help you win a GPP this week if Lowry plays good enough and Finau, say, just has a bad 2 rounds and misses the cut. You're already being almost half the field.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're looking for. And then Gary Woodland right there at 8,600 is another one that you mentioned. Just another consistent cash game guy.
Yeah, it's same as Finau. I think Woodland might be not as popular, but he'll be definitely in the top 5, I say, for ownership. He hasn't missed a cut in the last 5 years. And then if you look at his stats, I mean, he's 8th in the field for approach to the green and 14th for par 4 scoring. So I think just plugging Woodland and Finau and your cash lineups and just go from there. I think those 2 are your best guys to have in the upper 8,000s for this week.
And guys like Cameron Smith and Alexander Schauffele are interesting. I think pivots as well off of those names. Those are guys that do rank in kind of the mid for my my models this week. And Cameron Smith's been playing well. Schauffele's interesting as well at their price tags. Like, I don't expect him to have the ownership, but I expect him to be in a similar range of outcomes as a Finau or Woodland here.
Yeah, and he's also right next to CH3 as well, where CH3 will be popular also this week.
He's an ownership vacuum from wherever he's at. He will suck the ownership around of that range.
Exactly. Like, he's at that price this week, just like last week, where people are just going to plug him in. They're going to pick like Leishman or Jon Rahm or Justin Rose, and then they'll just pair them up with Charles Howell, just because he has to miss a cut here in a long time, and he's finished run-up here last year. So people will play him. For Cameron Smith, I mean, he's just like Lowery. I think Smith might be your next best option for a pivot. He's 4th in the field for par 4 scoring, and he's 18th in the field for birdies or better percentage. So if you take that and you take Lowery, you're already different, and then maybe just go with the chalk for everywhere else and hope that those two will finish high on the leaderboard.
Yeah, for sure. And we're getting into the 7K range. I feel like there's a handful of options at this like upper sevens. Bud Cauley 79. Interesting. I think Vegas is going to be somewhat interesting this week at 7,700, given his play over the last 2 rounds. Even Steele, like, this is kind of a range where I think you can take some shots and feel pretty comfortable at the value that's kind of right in that 7K range.
Yeah, I kind of like Steele and Vegas in this range a lot. Steele is like 5th in the field for off the tee, and just like Charles Howell, he hasn't missed a cut at this course or at this event in the last 5 years. So at 7,800, that's really what you're looking for, is the guy that's consistent every year at the same event, making the cut, and then potentially giving that upside of finishing, like, say, top 15 or something like that. Same with Vegas. I mean, he hasn't missed a cut since 2013. And then if you look at his stats, I mean, he's basically average in the field, which is really what you want for what you're expecting for Vegas. But he is pretty good for off the tee. He's 32nd. So I think for tournament option, I think it's for you go with Vegas, and then for cash, I think Steele might be your best option in the high sevens.
Yep, I agree with you there. Moving down the list, I know JJ Spawn here is 7,500, some of that you mentioned as a GPP guy in your article up on the site. What do you like about Spawn this week?
Yeah, I think Spawn is really coming together. I said that he was getting up there basically in talks of Rookie of the Year before, like, Jon Rahm started going off, and then with center Schauffele winning the Tour Championship. Spawn was up there at the beginning of the year last year, and then it looks like he's coming around again. He's finished 9th here last year, and then he already has a runner-up finish back at the RSM. So I think where he is at 7,500, he has really good stats going into this week. He's 4th for approach to the green. He's 5th for par 4 scoring, and also 5th for birdies a better gain. So I think Spawn might be your dark horse for this week. I haven't seen his odds, but I think I'm just going to have him on my card for an outright win for this week.
I like it. You and I were talking a little bit about Kevin Streelman before the show. I brought him up to you. He's once again kind of that tournament pivot in that range that I do think will obviously get overlooked. Um, Streelman's, T29, T17 over his last two rounds here. I don't mind him. I don't mind him as a GPP option. You were talking about Finau being a poor man's Matsuyama. He's basically a poor man's Finau.
Yeah, pretty much. I was comparing the same tournament with him with Finau and Streelman. If you look at his putting, it's just as bad, if not worse, than Finau's. At the Shriners, he lost 9 strokes to the field. So, his ball striking is there. If you look at his stats, he's 13th off the tee. He's 9th for par 4 scoring. He's 31st for approaches. So, yeah, I think Streelman will be overlooked at 7,500. He's made the cut the last 2 years. He actually finished 3rd here back in 2016. So I think everyone will be on Spawn. There might be a few other popular players around here, like Jimmy Lovemark. Lane Worth is usually somewhat popular. So, yeah, Streelman might be your best tournament option in the mid-7s.
What do you think of kind of the, Molinari, Hadwin, Kyle Stanley's been playing well? That's kind of an interesting group of basically, you mentioned Leamirth, Lovemark, Streelman, that whole 75 to 74 range of some of those guys have some really interesting names.
Yeah, I think at that point, you're just kind of comparing their course history a little bit, see who's been playing better at this event. And then if you're like me, if you look at stats as well, I kind of like Molinari out of that group. He's one of the best ball striking wise. He's 12th in the field for approach the green. He's 15th for off the tee, 16th for par 4 scoring, and he finished 14th here last year. So I think combined with that, yeah, he's at 7,400. All I want him to do is just make the cut, and that'll be good for me.
Before we drop down to the below 7K, anyone else you want to talk about in the 7s?
Yeah, the one guy we kind of talked about that seems somewhat interesting is Hunter Mahan.
That's right, yeah.
Hunter Mahan at 7,000, he hasn't missed a cut here. He finished 15th back in 2013. And we look at his stats for his last 24 rounds. His best stats are off the tee. He's 7th. He's 10th and par 4 scoring, which is outstanding, pretty good, I think. And he's 12th in the field for putting. So I noticed this name on the weekend, on the last weekend at the Career Builder, and then it's you see his name, it's holy cow, what happened to him? And people were just recall his shot at the Ryder Cup that sort of got into his head after that, and it seems now that he finally came over that, and he's actually playing decently well. So, he had a couple missed cuts at the start of the season, but he's had good finishes as well. So I think Mahan, if you're looking for a sub 2%, 3% guy for tournaments, I think he's your guy.
And, below 7K, you mentioned Hadley in your article at 6,800. You're not too sure what, popularity will be on him this week, just because there's various factors, of course, history, the recent history, and obviously being that cheap, you're never guaranteed to just become a kind of an auto play.
Yeah, he's just as interesting. When you look at his stats, he's 3rd in the field for birdie or better percentage gain. He's 11th in the field for par 4 scoring. We look at his recent history. He's finished in the top 10 3 times in a row or something like that, just to start off the year. So if you just look at that, being at 6,800, people will click on him. But if you look at just his course history, he only played here twice in the last 5 years, and one was a miscut, and the other one was basically towards dead last. He finished for 58 back in 2016. So I think I'm just going to go with this recent play and with his stats. And at 6,800, that's pure value. And I think he has a good shot as a potential dark horse for this week.
Anyone else you want to talk about here?
I think Justin Hadley might be the lowest guy. I might have the only guy I might have a look at would be Tyler Duncan. He's been playing somewhat decently well for his rookie season. I mean, he's 24th in the field for off the tee, so he's a rookie. He's at 6,500. If you want to pure pair Tiger and Rahm or Tiger and Justin Rose, then you can go straight down to Tyler Duncan as see what happens, basically see if he makes the cut or not. At 6,500, you can't go wrong with him. So I think he might be your best option down here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're pairing up with those guys, you're definitely going to need a salary relief play.
Exactly.
So let's kind of wrap it up for us. Your name mentions me. You called a winner here. Who do you got winning this thing?
Yeah, I said JJ Spawn is my pick to win this week.
I like it. Dodging the big names. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if Tiger wins, but yeah.
Of course, you didn't want to just be a homer and completely say Tiger, but deep down we all know Tiger.
Yeah, we all know that I like Tiger for this week.
That's going to wrap it up with us. You can head over to dayfantasycafe.com. You can check out Chris's article up on the site now, and we'll see you guys next week.